The St. Charles County Council meeting of June the 8th, 2020 is now called to order. We will have the invocation done by Brian Andrews of Amazing Grace Baptist Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Dave Hammond. Please stand.
May ask for the preacher again. We don't know if he's here.
Is Brian Andrews here? Mr. Elam?
I'll pray. Let's bow our heads. Father God, we need you now more than we have in a very long time. And we ask now for your wisdom, your grace to be upon us in this meeting and to be upon us in this community and this country. We just pray for the unrest that's been going on, and we just pray that you will give us the wisdom, the clarity to seek your judgment, your guidance in all of these decisions. We thank you for the grace and the rewards that you give us every day, and I just pray that we'll be mindful of small miracles that you always make known to us, and we'll be grateful for the things and know that they come from you. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Cronin.
Here.
Councilmember Brazel. Councilmember Elam.
Here.
Councilmember Hollander.
Here.
Councilmember Hammond.
Here.
Councilmember Schneider.
Here.
Councilmember White.
Okay. First on the agenda tonight is a public hearing to amend the county's 2016 to 2020 Consolidated Plan and 2019 Annual Action Plan. So are there any speakers on the public hearing?
Yes, I have one speaker, Arnie Dienoff.
Okay, Mr. Dienoff?
Thank you very much, members of council. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienoff, civic and public advocate, also running for Missouri Lieutenant Governor. As we all know, the 5-year consolidated plan for community block grant development funds, we have our hands out. We're a conservative county, but yet we have our hands out to the federal government to the tune of $136 to $175 million, depending on what comes through with the CARES Act. You want to expend at least $12 million of this money on our jail, which really has nothing to do with a virus. You want to spend additional monies at the Department of Public Health and the administration building in downtown St. Charles, which really border fraud type things using federal government money through the community block grant process. That's how the federal government is funneling this money down to us. We need to stop having our hands out. We're not a welfare county. We're one of the richest, wealthiest counties, not only in the state of Missouri, but the entire nation. We need a true countywide plan, and this is to include the city of O'Fallon. You say it's a consolidated plan, and you have all the municipalities except for O'Fallon. O'Fallon's Community Development Block Grant Fund is causing total duplication of the same services that the county is doing for the city of St. Peters, the city of St. Charles, the city of Weldon Springs, the city of Wentzville, and the other small cities of Cotterville and other villages within our county. It's a toll of administration costs to pay for political patronage jobs, and it's high time that we stop accepting this money and have a truly consolidated community development block grant fund. This money needs to go to the people who are truly needed and who truly need the money for housing, for food allowance, to keep on their utilities, to keep them in their homes, to have young couples buy homes in our county. And there's also fraud. I personally know some situations in the city of O'Fallon and the St. Charles County Consolidated Plan where there's fraud, where there's doling out of the money to families who don't meet the qualifications and who don't meet the guidelines under the federal codified code of the United States government. And that needs to be investigated by your program administrator and the county counselor's office and the county police. But we really need a consolidated plan, and I ask that you accept O'Fallon into the plan because it's a duplication of service and it's a duplication of paying close to $75,000 in the same administrative costs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Udinoff. Are there any other speakers on this particular public hearing?
No, they're not.
Okay, public hearing is closed. Next on the agenda is public comments. I want to point out that in public comments, you will be limited to 3 minutes. There will be 3 speakers for and 3 speakers against on any topic. Because of the interest in this one particular bill tonight, we're going to expand that to 5 speakers for, 5 speakers against any, on that particular subject. One other thing I want to point is all of us councilmen have received numerous emails, and all of those emails will be included in the public record, okay, because of the situation we are now in. Okay, all right. We will start with public comments, and Claire, who do we have?
We have speakers here for the ShowMe VAX bill tonight, and I have multiple against and 1 supporting. So we'll do against first, Mary Ann Boatwright.
I find it curious that you want to transmit personal health information to ShowMe VAX without consent. Patient, parents, mother's maiden name, address, birth date, SSN, Medicaid number, phone number, email, address, Visa, MasterCard, method of payment are some data points. More data in more places is actually more opportunity for breaches. There is 399,000 St. Charles County residents. It's a middle-class community and has low poverty and generous to those in need. Children on Medicaid, uninsured, underinsured would be eligible for free vaccines. If our poverty rate, due to the COVID-19, it's typically about 5.5%, even if we stretched it to 8%, that's 32,000 people. Out of those, probably 10% would come forward for help. That's 3,200 people. How does it make sense to disseminate personal information on 399,000 to help 3,200? We can help 3,200 in a simpler way, retaining our privacy and liberty. It's not a binary choice. Something else is going on here, and we need to use critical thinking skills to flesh it out. Loss of liberty doesn't happen overnight. It happens stealthily, a little at a time. As Bill Gates stated, we won't get back to normal until we vaccinate the whole population. He also wants to include a tattoo in our system that can be scanned to identify vaccinated from unvaccinated in order for us to move about. Sounds like 1984, Agenda 21, New World Order to me. This is not the future I want for my grandchildren. Citizens need to be informed about vaccine risk and make educated decisions for themselves. My generation received about 10 vaccines. Now we're giving 72. Where are the autistic people of my generation? They don't exist. Why do we have so much autism, dementia, Alzheimer's, autoimmune disease, asthma, and cancer? Could it be too many poisonous toxins and heavy metals which settle in the brain? I dare anyone to present accurate, unbiased tests proving vaccines healthy and safe. More research is needed. Why do Facebook and social media remove debate on the subject? If facts are on your side, what's the harm of a healthy, vigorous debate? Since when is it a good idea to inject our bodies, including newborn babies, with aborted fetal cells, animal DNA, formaldehyde, mercury, aluminum, and other toxins? Our bodies are magnificent God-given works of art that fight infection and disease if given proper nutrition and rest. Mandatory vaccine laws are a violation of basic human right to voluntary consent without coercion. Nuremberg Code was established following World War II based on the fact that all medical products have an inherent health risk and side effects, vaccines included. I'm asking you to educate yourself, search your heart, and ask for God's wisdom in making the correct decision and voting against this measure. Thank you.
Nancy Cope Desane.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. I want to introduce myself, Nancy Cope Desane. I am the retired Executive Director of Habitat for Humanity of St. Charles County. And I do want to say that I support Bill 4285, and I want to make that very clear. I was able to watch what happened 2 weeks ago and was very surprised at a lot of the comments that were made against ShowMe VAX. And especially knowing that ShowMe VAX gives us the opportunity to get vaccinations for free for those kids that do need help and their families. Long line of calls and discussion about it, and I'm here to talk for Denise Liebel, who was not able to come tonight. She's the president and CEO of United Services for Children. And she talked to her executive board and asked the medical doctor on her executive board to bring something to speak. And since she had a conflict, I'm here to read that to you. I will say that my generation was the generation that was proud and happy to get a sugar cube, knowing that we wouldn't get polio like some of our friends did that were crippled for life, and proudly show where we got a smallpox vaccination when we were at the pool. So I believe in vaccinations, and I believe it's good for our children, for our grandchildren, and for our community. This is from Dr. Natasha Morris. She is the Assistant Professor, Department of Psychiatry, Washington University School of Medicine. She is both an MD and a PhD. I am writing this public comment to voice my strong support of St. Charles County Bill 4852 regarding the ShowMe VAX program. As a child and adolescent psychiatrist, autism researcher, and executive board member of United Services, which is deeply committed to the well-being of children, I am gratified to hear that St. Charles County has an initiative supporting the ShowMe VAX program. I understand that at a recent meeting, the council heard from those who were not in favor of the ordinance, but that no one was present to voice arguments in its favor, and I wanted to make sure that these points were heard. Thank you. Vaccines constitute a remarkable advance in healthcare. Without vaccines, millions of people around the world, particularly our most vulnerable, would die from otherwise preventable diseases. As an autism researcher, I am acutely aware of the concerns that have been raised about vaccines and cannot emphasize enough the value of population-wide implementation of vaccines and the fact that the original study raising concerns about links between autism and vaccines was retracted and was followed up by numerous well-done, well-studied studies across many populations that failed to find this association. For vaccines to be beneficial, pediatricians in particular work with families to follow guidelines for recommended schedules. Because these schedules can involve many steps, programs tracking vaccine administration, ShowMe VAX, I'm almost done, are vital to support effective implementation at the population level. By making it easier to find information on vaccine records, ShowMe VAX helps the public take care of their health and the health of their children. Continued support of ShowMe VAX is therefore important for public health, not only for the many individuals who appreciate the benefit of being able to easily locate the information, but also for protecting our community at large. Thank you for consideration.
Thank you, ma'am.
Brenda Webb.
Brenda Webb.
Hi, I'm Brenda Webb. Thank you again for listening to us this evening. We appreciate it. I had given a couple of things to Councilman Brazel. I think he was going to pass them out to you on the ICANN lawsuit that ICANN, the Informed Consent Action Network, along with Robert Kennedy Jr., they've gotten a lot of publicity the last couple of years. They won a lawsuit against the DHHS, Health and Human Services, a couple of years ago because they did a FOIA, like in 2017, and nothing was produced. So a year later, I think they went back and requested again and asked for, the response. And finally, DHHS was forced to admit they did all the search according to all of what they requested in their FOIA, for documentation on safety records and safety tests that the DHHS has been required, for like 30 or 35 years to submit to Congress every 2 years. And they basically came back and said, we did a search on the library, we did a search on all the records we have, we did a search on like 3 or 4 different places, archives, and they found no records of safety tests done on vaccines, 30 years. And there's a lot to that. We're all concerned, and I just want to say, I am not an anti-vaxxer. I don't think anybody, if anybody here is an anti-vaxxer, raise your hand. Oh, one, well, a few are. I'm not totally anti-vaxxer, but we really demand safety confirmed, that our vaccinations are safe. And, what Marianne Boatwright was mentioning is there are now documented things like formaldehyde and mercury and all kinds of things. A lot of study needs to go in, and some safety tests need to be performed and submitted to Congress, and that's what we're asking. That's really what we're asking. We're frightened because we feel like, and we're afraid that our rights and our health and our safety is not being protected with what is in place, and that's what we're here about tonight. We want to see that safety guaranteed, and then we're okay with it. I got lots of vaccines when I was little, but many less than what they're doing nowadays. And we would just really like you guys to look at this and consider the fact that, are these things safe? That's what we want to know. So one of the other things, someone spoke at the last meeting about transparency, that we really believe there should be transparency, and obviously in the case that ICANN just won, there wasn't transparency. They had to go to court and fight and fight and fight, kind of like the Judicial Watch is doing right now on other things, to get the documentation to prove they did have a point. So just thank you for listening to us. We appreciate it, and hope that you'll just put a stop on this and do some more research, like you did with the international codes. We appreciated that. Thank you.
Dan Manternack. Only had one for.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Dan Monternon.
Hey, Dan, can
Yes.
you point that microphone towards your face, the one next to you there?
There we go.
Or you can stand there.
All right.
Even better. Thank you.
I'll stand in front of it. My name is Dan Monternock, and I am very much opposed to the mandatory reporting of vaccination records to the state. I think it's a matter of privacy between a person and their physician. And mostly I'm concerned about what happens. What will the state do with the information? What will they do to people who don't get vaccinated? Will they be put into forced quarantine? Will everybody that they have contacted be tracked? There's no mention made of what the state will do to people who, just as a matter of choice or a matter of personal conscience or faith or whatever, choose not to be vaccinated. What will be the consequences to those of us who won't be vaccinated? We're not told. And until we're told what the state will do with that information, I am very much opposed to this bill.
Diane Rhodey. Diane Rhodey.
Yes, so my name is Diane Rhodey. Dear council members, thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak in opposition of Bill 4852. In the previous meeting on May 27th, discussing this topic, it was clearly evident that there are many St. Charles County residents who are opposed to this bill. Councilman Brazel said it well and succinctly. Sharing our immunization records with the state Department of Health does not promote our health, nor does it offer any protection of our personal health information. The bureaucrats in Jefferson City are not our healthcare providers. If indeed I say, it is true that the county will not receive funding for other vaccines for the needy if we do not comply with this request, as Mr. Chapman stated, then we need to pull that money from other sources, not compromise our personal health records to the government. I've worked in healthcare for 45 years as a registered nurse. It seems to me, if indeed the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services is really concerned about our health and well-being, they should be focused on stressing the importance of our daily diet and exercise instead of immunization records. If I recall correctly, there were a number of speakers who were opposed to passage of this bill. That should send a loud and clear message to the council that there are many residents who are opposed to passage of this bill. Based on the wording of the bill, the county executive or his designated representative would have exclusive power to send all immunization records to Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services without our permission. Something seems hugely wrong with this picture. It is a well-known scientific fact that regular physical exercise reduces stress and improves our mood, something that would be beneficial to all of us instead of worrying about whether or not our immunization records are being sent to the state. May I also remind you that this is a HIPAA violation. You might also want to consider you might be liable to face lawsuits regarding this if it passes. I respectfully submit that you not vote in favor of this bill. Thank you for your kind attention to this matter.
Jane Puskar.
Hi, my name's Jane Pushkar, a very proud resident of this county of St. Charles. Been here for a long time. I'm going to read from a prepared statement. I do not understand how any of this is legal. Your response, City Council, may be that it's for the public health. What health crisis is there that would justify sharing my personal or anybody's personal information with bureaucrats? Are we talking about a virus with a 99.7% survival rate? Sure, it hits those that are elderly with comorbidities harder than it does millennials. But again, how is this a crisis held in higher regard than the normal flu? Before I became a retired nurse, I worked in the neuroscience department down at Barnes. I was not allowed to look at any patient's chart unless they came under my care. I was not allowed to discuss any portion of their chart with anyone except those involved in their immediate care. I could not even look at my husband's own chart. And if I did, I would be immediately terminated and walked out of the building. I respected that because I respect our rights to privacy. HIPAA was signed into law by President Clinton in 1996. It was signed into law mainly to solve issues dealing with continuing health coverage for people who lose their jobs, reducing healthcare fraud, creating industry-wide standards, and protecting private health information. Therefore, the very law that was signed to protect our health information is now being used to exploit my information. Even if you have a requisite form to be signed for each vaccine that you want to give out to a patient, it's a violation. How many times have you signed yourself the HIPAA form without even understanding what it was for? Did you take the time to read the law and understand its implications? I doubt it. I can picture the situation where the elderly person, such as myself, is told at the front desk of by their healthcare provider, please read this and sign this. Of course they will, because they're obedient. Most likely, it will never be explained that an unknown person in the future will use this information to track others and invade their privacy, much like will be done by the bureaucrats in the state of Missouri once they get all of our vaccine information. What's going to be done with that information? Nobody's told us. HIPAA needs to be respected and used for purpose of protecting our private health information, not exploiting it. To do anything less than not sharing our private information, as well it should be, against the law. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that is the 5 allowed speakers that are against Bill number 4852. So now do we have speakers on other subjects?
Yes, we have, right.
Yes, yes.
And we move on to Bill 4856 and Rita Voorhees. He was allowing 5 against instead of just the 3. Yes, you did.
My name's Rita Voorhees, and I'm a resident of St. Charles since 1972. I will gladly step aside and give my time to Vicki Smith regarding the issue on Gudermouth Road, and I checked ahead of time to see if this was permissible.
That's fine. That's fine, ma'am.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Vicki. Do I need to raise my right hand and swear in? Okay. My name is Vicki Smith. I live at 5218 Gudermouth Road, St. Charles, Missouri. I would like to stand with my neighbors, and we are very much opposed to the rezoning at 5225 Gudermouth Road. We bought our property because that's where we want to live. We are really not overly happy with the 10-year plan that we have seen for Cottleville and our neighborhood. We don't want to have commercial buildings all around us. Nobody has approached us to buy our property. Nobody has approached us to buy our property for the road extension at Gudermouth Road. I was told when I had a petition signed, more than 100 signatures were signed in protest of this rezoning. Of those 100 signatures, there were teachers, there were counselors, they were all from the Francis House School District. They don't need more students in the Francis House School District, not of any age. It's overcrowded now. The traffic at that area, I don't think the traffic study has ever been done. If it had been done, then people would realize the infrastructure is not yet ready for that 18 family development that they have an application to put at 5225 Gudermouth Road. There's a curve that's shaped like a lightning bolt there. There's a hill. We've got church traffic. They've got special events that happen at all different times of the year. Parking is already an issue and a problem. It's a floodplain, so people are going to, the water has to go somewhere. If they're saying 5225, if they pass that plot plan, everything will have to be elevated where it's like 2 feet here, 2 feet here, and then this person right here, which is my neighbor Denny Hubbard, he sits 20 feet below the level of where they're going to elevate. So he is going to be dumped, all that water is going to dump right on his roof. We already have major issues. The person behind him had foundation issues, and there's drainage issues. Also, there's mature walnut trees on that piece of ground. There's a creek back there. So I don't know if there's been anybody from the Wildlife Preserve Department come and check out what's back there, what should be protected back there. I don't know if there's anybody planning on preserving those trees, or if they're just gonna chop them down and just flatten the land and move on. There's gonna be a 20-foot wall there in the plans. I just don't see that it's feasible. I think, and the petition being signed by 100 people that are not within 1,000 feet of that area, and then all the neighbors, the majority of them also had notarized letters sent in to where they are also against the rezoning at 5225 Guttermuth Road.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate your
Thank you
comments.
very much for
Amber Smith.
Claire?
Amber Smith.
Okay. Claire, who will be the next speaker so we can kind of get a head start here?
We have Heather Geringer after this, and then there are 6 more against. I have no one to support this, so.
Okay, we'll entertain 3, okay.
Okay, so like my neighbor at 5218, I live at 5236. I live directly across from this property. So I don't know if you guys are aware of the overcrowding in the Francis House School District to the point where Warren Elementary turned 3 closets into classrooms. I have the maps here that show that Warren was the most overcrowded elementary school that caused a soft boundary pushing kids out of Warren into surrounding schools. I know that they say that this property is directed at elderly people because they can walk to church. The church is actually a quarter of a mile or more away. I don't picture elderly people walking to church in the extreme Missouri weather. And also, I'm a cardiac nurse, and I wouldn't advise it. So, the other thing is I'm also the Amber Smith that's on the petitions. Spent a lot of time with my neighbors, talking to everybody. There was over 100 people just surrounding our properties that do not want the commercialization plan that they have scheduled for 2030. In your papers, I just want to point this out. I should have done it earlier, but they stated that the property was next to a soccer field and a parking lot, and the property is in between 2 homes. It has 3 homes behind it, and it has several homes across it. So it's actually surrounded by single-family residential homes. So to me, when you look at it, it looks like spot rezoning, because the only benefactor of this rezoning is Variety Homes. It does not benefit anybody on Guttermuth Road but them on this small parcel of land that they want to shove 18 families on. So I'm asking you, the council, to enforce our R1A FF rezone standing, and they can build 3 homes, which is sufficient enough. The county could handle it, the schools could handle that amount of families there, and the traffic wouldn't be as bad as having 36 potential cars. That's really all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Heather Geringer.
Hi, my name's Heather Geringer. I live at 5234 Guttermuth Road, and I live across the street from the property in which Variety Homes is trying to build 18 homes. I'd like to start off by saying that the properties around this parcel of land that's 3.47 acres are all on 1-acre lots. Some of them are a little bit less than that, but for the majority of this area, we are on 1-acre lots. So the aesthetic of putting in 18 homes in that small little area, it just really doesn't fit what is in that area. I'd also like to bring a point that we are within 1,000 feet from the intersection of Guttermuth Road and Motherhead Road. I'm not sure if you've ever driven down that around 5:30 p.m. or maybe around 7:30 a.m. on a busy school day or a work day, because you will be backed up. You will be backed up past my driveway, You will be backed up past half the driveways of the people that are here today. It takes me at least 15 to 20 minutes to get around the corner to go to my house from Motherhead Road. Like I said, I'm within 1,000 feet, so that's not that far to take 15 to 20 minutes of a drive. I would also like to say that I have spent a lot of time with the residents in our area of St. Charles County, and I would like to say it's not just Cottleville, it's the county residents as well, the unincorporated residents that do not want this. We are opposed. We do want to have nature in our area. We want the wildlife. We want to have those 3 homes with those 3 families. We welcome that. We don't welcome 18 homes. Nobody in the area welcomes 18 homes. That's over 70 people in 3 acres. It's going to be around 3 acres, by the way, because the land is not fully flat. And so part of it does go down a hill, and that hill is, Denny is at the bottom of that hill. Denny's home will be flooded. The home behind this property will be flooded. It's not a good idea. And again, I back everything that my neighbors have said. We've been out talking in the community. The community does not want this. Cottleville is already busy enough. This area is already busy enough. Please oppose this. Thank you.
Arnie Dienoff. Arnie Dienoff.
Thank you very much, members of the council. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienoff, County Public Advocate, resident, and running for Lieutenant Governor in the August primary. I refuse to wear the big red sticker that the sheriff's deputy gave me. You know, Hitler placed a patch and burned a tattoo on the Jewish people in World War II that we fought for their freedom. I'm not going to have you tattoo me and cite me out as singling me out with a big red button. That's just ridiculous. To Joanne Lycum, the Director of Administration, and to the Director of Public Health. I refuse to do that. And I also urge you to vote no on Bill 4852. In the Information System Department, we are literally spending millions upon millions of dollars this year of upgrading our IT department. On your agenda, consent agenda, is another $350,000. Are we seeing progress from former Director Wong with Matt Sneeds? We keep spending the money, but I don't know if I see any results. Now, this council was slick. You were sly. You tried to get something and bury a change on the county council agenda. While you feel the thrill to tramp down on us, the people, I'm appalled. Listen up, public. I'm appalled, and karma to each council person. Resolution, you want to change the council rules. You want to limit speakers shall address only topics that are clearly on the meeting agenda. If the speaker's comments do not address or cease to address the agenda topic, you'll call for a point of order, the speaker will forfeit their time, and then you'll call for an arrest of the police. This is targeted at me and my fellow county residents. You buried it on the county agenda without public disclosure, and you'll take it up as a resolution. You're mad at me because I brought up County Executive Elman's son being charged with drug charges, and the courts buried it and buried his...
Mr. Dienoff, again,
I have the freedom
talked
of
to you
speech,
last
Mr.
week
Chairman.
about
I'm not going to wrap it
personal
up.
attacks.
You are breaking the county charter. You cannot limit free speech. You're breaking the Constitution of the state of Missouri and the Constitution of the United States that we fight every day to uphold. You are acting like tyrants. This is not communist China. You did not call martial law, and you're acting like tyrants. This is illegal. I will yield a court challenge in either circuit court or the federal courts. You are squeezing us residents. This is shameful, and I ask every resident should be appalled by your potential resolution in changing Rule 18C of the County Council promulgated rules. This is shameful and a disgrace. you're disrespecting us who pay your $20,000 salary, your medical benefits, and your pension. I ask that you vote resolution down. Thank you.
I have no more speaker cards.
No more speaker cards. Okay, next on the agenda is an oral report from the county executive or staff. Is there one?
I'd like to make a motion to allow Tony to speak since he is a state representative elected official. I know other people filled out speakers cards too, but I know certainly some of these doctors, I'm going to
That would be
up to the podium. I don't, you know, they came a long way to speak, so we're not going to not let them speak. Why don't we just tell Tony that's the thing?
Yeah, good. You're fine. You're fine.
Tony, do you want to speak during now, or do you want to just come up when we do the bill? And you can speak during the bill. Would you rather speak now, or would you rather speak when we're discussing the bill?
Your preference.
Let's do the bill.
Why don't you speak when we discuss the bill? That way you don't have a time limit.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Let's go that direction.
That's fine.
Fair?
Is that fine?
Cool.
Okay, anyone else? Okay. All right, next on the agenda is the oral report from the county executive or staff. Do we? No report. Okay, next up is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to accept.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, consent agenda has passed. Okay. All right. First bill for final passage is Bill number 4851.
Bill number 4851, an ordinance granting an easement for an electric line to Union Electric Company doing business as Ameren, Missouri at Klondike Park to replace aging electric service lines.
Any questions or comments on this particular bill? Okay, seeing none, please call the roll.
Bill number 4851, an ordinance granting an easement for an electric line to Union Electric Company doing business as Ameren, Missouri at Klondike Park to replace aging electric service lines. Councilman Cronin.
Yes.
Councilman Brazel. Councilman Elam.
Yes.
Councilman Hollander.
Yes.
Councilman Hammond.
Yes.
Councilman Schneider.
Yes.
Councilmember White.
Yes.
Okay, bill number 4851 passes. Next bill for final passage is Bill number 4852.
Bill number 4852, an ordinance authorizing the county executive or his designee to execute a memorandum of understanding between St. Charles County and the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services for the state's immunization data repository known as ShowMe VAX.
Okay. Mr. Brazel, would you like to start?
I'd like to start. And Mr. Dino, if you're going to hear this one time, maybe a few more times, but this one time, where the hell did these red stickers come from and who came up with that? Because I wasn't made any, the council, were we asked that we're going to put red stickers on people? Were we asked that? This is a council meeting. So I don't want to see that at the next council meeting unless we're voting on stuff like that, because that's absolutely ridiculous. I'm tired of people having I'm tired of these getting our temperature taken and having questions. That's stopping. This whole thing, this governor thing going to the 15th is total nonsense, and we're going to stop this. And if you're wearing a mask, that's fine, but you don't have to. That's totally ridiculous. So that's okay.
Right,
Okay,
yes.
now I'm going to go on with.
Now we'll move on with Bill
You know,
4852.
Here we go. Now, I've been sending you folks messages, and I know you're getting tired of my texts and stuff, and I keep telling you to wake the hell up and all that other stuff, okay? So what I want to talk to you is I sent you this piece of paper, and I'm just going to go over some of the highlights about the vaccinations, okay? And then I'm going to get to my point why you keep asking these questions. Why are we even talking about this? They don't have to do with each other, but they do have everything to do with each other. It started in 1988. We were supposed to be making improvements made to vaccine safety. This is on this form I sent you. And the HHS eventually conceded that those reports do not exist. They don't test the safety of these vaccinations. They don't test them at all. And if you read any of those other videos I sent you, like the Great Awakening and some of those other ones, you're going to know this stuff. It's about Big Pharma trying to control people and making $500 billion a year off of vaccines. I'm telling you, you guys got to follow along here. In 1986, the National Childhood Vaccination Injury Act granted economic immunity to pharmaceutical companies for vaccine injuries and hence the economic incentive for them to take responsibility for vaccine safety. The United States, the government, us, not the government, the taxpayers, in 1986, the act shifted financial liability for vaccine injuries to the U.S. government, which has since, in 1986, paid over $3.9 billion for serious vaccine injuries, okay? So this is what you need to pay attention to. Then we got this bill sent to us by the county, and it reads the law. And I'm going to ask Dr. Naputo to come up here. He's got a lot of information on this because I had a lot of questions from him, and this is what he does. He makes a living off of this kind of stuff. And he not off of vaccines, quite the contrary. But it is unlawful for any, number 2 of 167.81. It is unlawful for any student to attend school unless he has been immunized as required under the rules and regulations of the Department of Health and Senior Services and can provide satisfactory evidence of such immunizations, except for if he produces satisfactory evidence of having begun the process of immunization. So these are going to be mandatory vaccines. So when we grew up, we're all pretty much the same age. Sure, we got the measles, we got the chicken pox, we got all the stuff that we're used to having. But things have changed now. The world's changed. Big pharmacy is controlling much more than you can ever imagine. It might have been like that back in the 70s and 80s, but I wasn't aware, but I'm awoke now. So what we have to pay attention to is the vaccines, what they're putting in your body, and what that woman there said, everything she said is absolutely true. That people are getting more sicker than they had before. They're having more problems from these vaccines. And why do you think that they haven't done any studies on the safety of these things? Well, it's the $500 billion a year that the vaccination, or that the big pharmacies making off these when they mandate it through the governments, and the governments are just being used as a tool to get some of these things through. And so what they're going to do is after they get they all tie together as a nice little gift. Then they're going to start making mandatory vaccines. Then it's going to go to COVID-19. As I sent you guys that stuff several months ago when I thought the control virus was a farce and no one was believing me, I sent you the patent number of the vaccine of COVID-19 in 2008. It was patented, the virus, in 2008. And then in 2014, they applied for a vaccination patent, which it was approved in 2019. Then all of a sudden, COVID-19 comes out. And Smith & Kline was the one who bought the vaccination. So put this together, guys. And I know this sounds like, oh, I got the little silver hat on, but I'm telling you, these are all facts, okay? I wanted to ask Dr. Eric Naputo to come up here, please, because he has some information to what we're speaking of.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Cronin. Sure.
You know, I grew up in North O'Fallon as a kid, which in a lower middle-class neighborhood like all of O'Fallon was in, and I got all my vaccinations, and the state had the records back then. And because I knew that, because when I applied to get a visa to go overseas as an exchange student, I had to have those records. This bill, I think a lot of folks are reading a lot more into it than it really is. I've read everything I can about the bill. None of us are medical experts. We don't know anything about vaccinations, folks, whether they're safe or not. I can say I remember measles and I remember mumps and I remember kids that were screwed up when I was a kid from polio. So yeah, I kind of believe in immunizations, but then again, I'm not an expert and I don't expect you folks to believe or not believe. That's your decision, okay, to make. What this bill really does, though, is this is just an agreement that allows the county executive to sign up for a new digital platform that they're upgrading at the health department. The same, let me finish, please. I listen to you all. The health department for years has been transmitting information to the state. This just continues it. And in the bill, you can read in there, it's a continued coordination of care. If you don't want the records sent to the state health department, don't bring your kids to the county health department to be vaccinated. Go to a doctor, okay, and have that doctor say, I don't want those records to be shared. You have that option, okay? The other thing is basically this new network that they're putting in replaces an old network with more secured and safe data storage, okay? It's also designed please let me finish, okay?
Please, ma'am, let's keep order. People on this council was very, very patient, listened to every word everyone had to say. There were no comments from here, and now it's our turn, and we will certainly, allow councilmen to express their opinions.
In the agreement, it clearly states it maintains the confidentiality of all data as required by state and federal law, okay? Additionally, the county has the right to terminate this agreement for 30 days. So it's basically a new digital platform that's more secure that the health department's instigating, so the data from the health department can go to the state health department. I don't take campaign contributions. 4 generations of my family live in this county. I would never do anything that I thought jeopardized the health of anybody in this county. This bill doesn't do that. But if we fail to pass this bill, literally thousands of lower income kids are not going to get vaccinated in this county. Folks that don't have health insurance, folks that don't have the money for a private doctor. And folks, I'm sorry, but that's wrong. Okay? If you don't like the idea of the public health department sharing your medical records with the state, don't go to the public health department. It's that simple. Go to your own private doctor and do what you want to do.
Yeah, right. Okay, doctor, okay.
Yes, I have a few things I'd like to say. First of all, let me just start off by saying a few things. I'm in extreme opposition against this to the 90th power, and I'm very, very concerned. I've been very vocal as a physician for the last 15 years in the state of Missouri. I am a St. Charles County resident as well. My children go to school in St. Charles County. Missouri is a state that embraces religious freedoms and medical beliefs. We've fought very hard. Many of us in this room have fought very, very hard to keep those practices here. And I will tell you, as a physician, being blessed to see tens of thousands of Missourians over the last 15 years, I know that there are thousands and thousands of individuals that have moved to Missouri in order to leave religious persecution and to pursue their medical freedoms. I know for a fact that the majority of people here tonight are opposed to this. And I know for a fact that the majority of my patients and the majority of people that I speak to are massively opposed to this. All of you on this council are going down a very, very slippery slope, and I know that you don't know this. This right here, this information, this potential bill is the same exact information that started in New York, New Jersey, California, and is now going through Colorado. And it started with this. It started with, let's just change the way that we report the information. Yesterday, my friends, 12,000 of my friends gathered at the Capitol building in Colorado because there was an emergency meeting to put together, pass legislation through last minute on a Sunday. By the way, the very first day that they allowed us to get back into church. And instead of us having to go to church, getting us to go to church, we had to go protest peacefully. And it was voted all the way through, mandatory vaccines to now go to the floor of the Senate. It was completely on partisan lines. Democrats all voted yes, Republicans all voted no. And for those of you that said, by the way, just so you're aware, at 3:40 today, I spoke with, and I'm not going to say the gentleman's name unless you ask me to, but I called and spoke with the Bureau of Immunization, the operations manager. You can look who up that individual is. And he said, and I quote, "There is no correlation between the utilization of ShowMe VAX and funding for children of underprivileged need to get vaccines." That is a lie. Well, let me just tell you something. And I don't know if he's here tonight, but if Mr. Chapman would like to tell us where he got that information from, we all deserve to know that. So the fact that we don't have all the truth, we don't have all the facts, how can we make a decision? I know some of you right now you feel that in your gut. Something's not right with this. I get it. Some of you may not think that way, but many of you do. And I know because you've reached out to me. That's why I'm here tonight. And if you feel that there's something wrong, then you need to pause this, vote no, table this till later so we can have a community discussion about this and much more. Now, let me say one or two more things, and I'll answer any questions if you have them. This is a very, very slippery road that we're going down. I love this community. We are a bunch of freedom-loving, constitutional-loving Americans that stand for what is right. And we recognize when things are wrong. You all know as well as I do that different organizations and political organizations from other counties look to St. Charles County to see what are we going to do. What happens in St. Charles County is going to happen throughout Missouri, and it's going to happen throughout America. That is a great responsibility, and you cannot make that responsibility without informed information. And we've already had some major misinformation set up here tonight already. One of them I just mentioned. You know, many of you have been told that this is no big deal. That this is no big deal. This is just another piece of software that's going to go through. No, it's not. This is against our Fourth Amendment right, period. This is a free... Think about this. For those of you, by the way, that don't know this, this is not, according to the CDC, this is not against HIPAA violation. That right there should raise a red flag. Because if something were to happen, someone were to break into my office and get your information, that's against HIPAA. That's a violation. But for whatever reason, since it's a vaccine issue, it is not a HIPAA violation. That is a problem. Think about this. Think about what we're saying. Yes, I understand what you all are saying, that this may not be leading towards mandatory vaccinations tomorrow, but it's coming. And guess what? It starts right here. You have the opportunity to make a decision, but will you take advantage of that opportunity? That's up to you. This is exactly what happened in California, New York, New Jersey, and is happening right now in Colorado. And I remember I called this morning, talked to my father, and he says, make sure that you let everyone know why you moved to St. Charles. I moved to St. Charles County from St. Louis County because I know this is a bunch of God-fearing, gun-toting, conservative Americans out here, and I want to live in that world. And I'm going to tell you right now, I remember I was a kid when he said this, but Ronald Reagan said something that really just burned into my soul. One of the scariest phrases ever said was, we are the government, and we are here to help you. Please vote no tonight on this. You do not have the information you think you need to make a decision. I'm happy to educate, inform, inspire, and motivate anyone here tonight, give you whatever information you like, but we need to have a conversation about this, not just a dialogue. It needs to be a dialogue, not a monologue. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Brazel, you have a question here.
I did talk to Eric Taputa today, and we had some conversations, and he shared a lot of really good information. And I knew a little bit about him through Tony Frisella. You guys know Frisella's nursery, great patriot, good American. And I was sending you guys he was on YouTube, and this is important to mention. And Eric, tell us a little bit about how many views you had on that, on the COVID-19.
Well, it wasn't really even about COVID-19. It was about the suppression of information. It was about the fact that when doctors speak up and speak out about the truth, we get suppressed. I had 50 million views on a video that I was told that I had to pull down because I was speaking the truth. I had the Attorney General's office come after me 4 times. We won all 4 times. They let us go. We had my own board come after me multiple times, twice. They said, you know what, you're right. This is against the First Amendment right for us to tell you to take this down. And I won that. I want you to understand the suppression of information is very, very strong, and 50 million Americans watched that first video. And by the way, there are a lot of those Americans in this room tonight. And ladies and gentlemen of the council, if these are the people that voted all of us, all of you in, and this is your constituency, it's not up to you. It's about them. It's about us. It's about what we want, and we want more information, and we want you to have more information before you vote on this thing. There's no way you have the information correct. It is not true that there is a correlation between this bill and funding to children on Medicare and Medicaid to get vaccines. That is a lie, and I got it from the horse's mouth today. Have any of you called and checked on that? Have you? Have any of you done anything other than look at the mainstream headlines that are out there? Have you? Harvard research study came out just 2 months ago and said the vast majority of Americans don't even look at anything besides the headline on the news, which, by the way, how many of y'all know many of that's been wrong, especially as of late?
All right, Terry,
what side do you want to be on?
Question to point.
Yeah.
Eric, question to point. We talked a little bit about that some of the council members say, oh, well, all they got to do is opt out, or they got to do is get an exemption. Can you explain that, the difficulties of that?
Well, a couple things that I want to say about that is that, did you know that New Hampshire is the only state that is an opt-in state for legislation like this? New Hampshire, look it up. New Hampshire is the only state that says you can opt in for this. Every other state, you have to opt out. Most people and people have already made that point tonight when they sign their HIPAA confidentiality, they don't understand what opting in versus opting out is. Many of you on the board don't understand that. And by the way, the medical exemption and the religious exemption for the state of Missouri is very, very clear. Right now, we still have that right. But if things like this keep happening, these bills keep happening, it's going to soften us up, and it's going to allow for more tolerance that has gotten us to a point where we're at right now in this world. Why things are so confusing is because of the tolerance, and the tolerance of this medical tyranny has got to stop. And so, I don't know if you know this, but this type of legislation that went and now has been gone to the House and the Senate in Colorado, they now say you have two choices. You either get a medical exemption or you get the vaccination. And if you decide to get the exemption, you have to watch a 2-hour, what they call re-educational video that you're pressured to watch by the Health and Human Services Department, a 2-hour deal. And by the way, just so you know, it used to be in the state of Missouri, you could print off the religious philosophical exemption form off the mo.gov website. You can no longer do that. They make you go into the health department. They make you get this health department form from the health department people who give you a hard time about it. They make you sign a waiver. They make you feel like you're a horrible person for informing and educating yourself on what you want to do for your children and your family, and that's the only way we can get those forms. So now that's why many Missourians have decided to homeschool their children. This type of legislation, whether you believe it or not, has led down a very slippery slope in other states, and Missouri is not one of those states where this needs to be happening.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does anyone have any other questions of the doctor? Okay. Do you have anyone else?
Well, I didn't know if there was, Eric, were there any other doctors that showed up for you to speak in?
Are there any other physicians here that want to talk tonight? I saw a few, but maybe they don't want to speak.
Okay.
Okay, we promised Representative Lovasco an opportunity to speak. Would you still like to do that? Okay. Oh, other matters? Oh, okay, all right, thank you. Thank you.
Bill, are you here for anything on this matter?
No. Okay.
I mean, there's no other council members that have any other questions on this matter? Because I wanted to add this.
Mr. Hammond said.
Dave, you want to? Or you want to?
I don't really have any questions, but I certainly don't want to table this bill. I want to go ahead and vote on it, and I can tell you now I'm voting no.
Mr. I think.
Concerned, the only thing.
I'd like, go ahead. No, I'd like to call our health director. Dimitri, would you like to come up and, okay, I would just like to, have you explain what this bill does and does not do.
The ShowMe VAX platform is a repository of vaccination records. It holds vaccination records. That's what it does. It is only those records for people who go to a provider that participate in using that platform. So it's not a repository for records of people who don't go to a provider that uses it. Then there's no data mining or getting it from other places. A patient has to present to a provider that uses this platform for their record to go into this platform.
Okay.
Anyone else? Mr. Elam, please.
Go ahead.
Okay, Demetrius.
I know you're loaded for bear here.
No, I just got questions. You said, made a couple comments. You said that this thing that you sent me that states the law, it says, again, it is unlawful for any student to attend school unless he has been immunized, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the reason why this is a big concern to people who see our constitutional rights slipping away inch by inch is because if this information goes to the state and then they say to me and my wife that your kid's going to have to get vaccinated for COVID-19 because Bill Gates and Fauci already made their billions and they're going to have a vaccination now all of a sudden. And so they're going to mandate it to public schools on this COVID-19. I explained to Mr. Cronin and some of the other council members, I am deeply concerned about the new vaccinations. Okay, we did the measles, we got the chickenpox, we understand all that. I'm talking about new ones, and I don't want my children will never get a COVID-19. We're not even to get flu vaccines. We're done with it. We have been for a long time. So in fact, if this passes and it ties into the state registry, then if I choose, I go to school and I say, my kid's not getting, it's none of your information. You don't need to know. I'm not doing nothing. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to answer your questions. We don't have to get a shot. We're not telling you if we get a shot. It's none of your damn business, okay? That's the problem. So if COVID-19 vaccine comes about, which it will, that's the whole pandemic sort of this thing, then how are we going to stop? That's how it works. That's how it ties together. And so that's probably what they're going to do is most probably, almost 98% chances, have a mandate on COVID-19.
We don't decide which vaccines.
No, but we decide this, Joanne, and this is one part of it, okay? So
The state General Assembly, with the governor's signature, has enacted a law that requires vaccines for kids to go to school, and there's a list of what they have to be there. And so it also provides the exemption provision, which has philosophical, religious, and medical reasons why you can get an exemption. None of that is up to us. The Missouri General Assembly made that decision and sent that bill to the governor, who signed it in 1963, and it's been continuously amended through 2001.
hey, that's fine. But what I'm saying is now that people are more awake, okay, on what's going on, we don't need to perpetuate this nonsense. So right here, we have a choice. We can make a decision that we don't want to continue with this anymore. We don't want to keep going on with this charade, okay? Now, it's a philosophical thing, Joanne. I mean, that's what it is. And you guys are elected up here to make these kind of decisions, not the bureaucrats, not the health directors, not these people who've never ran a business or owned a business or had to scratch a living. This is what this is about. It's about making all these rules up for people and having too much government interference.
Mr. Elam, please. Mr.
Oh,
Elam.
Demetrius, I'm sorry. Okay. He's been standing there. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
You made a comment at the last meeting that in order to pass this, it promotes the program to have the children get the ones who are less fortunate to afford vaccinations. This is the only way that affords that ability. The doctor stated that that is completely untrue. He called the department today. So is there a correction that needs to be made, or are you sticking to that statement?
The good doctor made a comment about this being tied to Medicaid. My comment at the last meeting was tied to the Vaccines for Children program. It is in our contract for the Vaccines for Children program and the 317 program, that's an indigent vaccine program for adults, that this is the platform that has to be used.
So it sounds like he's talking about two different things.
Yeah. Mr. Elam, you have a question?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. So currently, you had said last time that there's a program that is currently in place. To Joanne's point, I guess that's the one from 1963. That does, like this program's currently in place, and ShowMe VAX is replacing it. Is that what I understood correctly last week or 2 weeks ago?
ShowMe VAX is being rebuilt on a new platform.
So does ShowMe VAX currently exist?
Yes.
So that is a program that's currently in place?
Yes.
So currently, if my kids get the flu shot, those records go to whom?
If they got their flu shot from a provider that participates in the ShowMe VAX platform, that record is stored in the ShowMe VAX platform.
Right, but does a medical provider, like the pediatrician, does a pediatrician upload that into the database?
Yes.
If they're a participator?
Yes.
Okay, and then who would have access to that?
I don't know.
Okay, so, hey, I appreciate where you're at, man, okay? I didn't interrupt you at all. That's all I'm asking. I get people have strong feelings. Hang on, we're trying to get information, at least I am right now, right? So if I understand it, this information could be accessed by the Department of Health, like your department could access immunization records, is that correct?
Yes, immunization nurses at the Department of Health can access ShowMe VAX and look up a person's vaccine record.
Cool, so thank you about that. How can somebody opt out of this program?
The ShowMe VAX platform?
So, correct.
By not going to a provider that participates and not getting a vaccine from a provider.
Can they ask their, like, keep with my pediatrician example, can they ask their pediatrician to not upload their information into the system, or is the pediatrician an all or nothing into the program?
I don't know the answer to that.
You don't know the answer to that, okay. I know we talked about before that this program has an opt-out policy. I talked to Representative Lavasco for a little bit about this, and we have everybody represented tonight, man. We're in a city area doing a county meeting. We got a state representative, and State Senator Eigel is here as well. So, I mean, besides D.C., we got Missouri covered, man. So, being that this program was initiated at a state level in terms of making sure your children are vaccinated, according to what you said, that goes back to the 60s, and the legislature has continued to perpetuate this, we now have a state rep and a state senator who could very well team up and put a bill forward that says we could make this program an opt-in as opposed to an opt-out, and therefore it kind of cuts the thing that you were talking about before, where you're not automatically uploaded into a database. But I still come back to the fact that I think some people are really worried about privacy. Some people are not worried at all about privacy. Again, because I have Facebook, I know some people are not worried about privacy. Perhaps they should be, and that's another meeting that we can talk about. Point of clarity, because Mr. Brazel told me about this walking into the meeting, and I said, I don't think that's right, and I want to know. Will this bill force anyone to get any vaccines?
No.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Can I finish first, since you went on your rant while you made him stand there for 5 minutes and didn't ask him a darn question? Is there anything that Department of Health and Social Services, that's who manages ShowMe VAX, correct?
Department of Health and Senior Services.
Senior Services, sorry. I should know that. That's a senior mistake. What can they do with this information?
You don't know, he said.
What I know they do with it is generate reports of vaccine status for citizens.
So an example of what I heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, so I'm glad you're here, and if you don't know, I get it. You're not the end-all state health director, but so I was told that they could use this database to do some queries from time to time to make sure, like say there's a measles outbreak, and they could find out by looking at this what % of the population has been vaccinated for measles, and it would give them an idea to know what is the vulnerable population in the state of Missouri for an outbreak like that. Is that true?
Yes.
So it would give them, I know COVID's a hot thing, so I'm not going there, especially not with you within striking distance of me. But he gets riled up sometimes, man. You got to give him some room. With the COVID thing, everything that I keep hearing about, I'm sorry to go on and on, is a herd mentality or herd immunity. And you probably, Doctor, have probably got some thoughts on herd immunity, and that will be in the next video that comes out. I'm plugging you, man. There you go. Working together. If we get to this herd immunity, we need to be at 60 to 70% that this virus is touched in the population, whether that's through people having the virus organically or through people getting this horrible vaccine that we've heard about, right? So is that correct? A 60 to 70% is herd immunity?
Herd immunity is dependent on how contagious a particular disease is. So herd immunity for one disease is different than it is for another. The threshold varies from disease to disease.
But would you be able to query this database in theory, to find out if we have reached a herd immunity threshold in a population?
If it were a very targeted population of similar age cohort, and I say that because this database is not going to have it's not going to have my immunizations. It doesn't have my 22-year-old son's immunizations. It does have my 16-year-old son's immunizations.
So can you tell me why that would be?
Why it doesn't have?
Correct.
Because I left Missouri before ShowMe VAX was available.
Gotcha. Okay. Sorry to interrupt your thought.
So,
it won't have everybody's vaccination records.
Exactly. It doesn't have everyone, so you wouldn't know. You can extrapolate an estimated herd immunity of a population, but unless you absolutely knew every single person's vaccine status and immune status because of naturally developed antibodies, you couldn't say with complete accuracy what level of immunity a population has.
It would just give them some level of knowledge, not complete.
Estimate, yeah.
All right. Mr. Chairman, I'm done.
I got a question.
We'll let Mr. Cronin go first, okay?
Dimitri, I'd like to thank you for providing me a lot of information. I've bugged you quite a bit over this since the last meeting, and just so you folks know, yeah, we really do our homework. But one of the things about this that was very clear is this program is funded by the Centers for Disease Control, administered by the state. And it's very clear that you have to participate in ShowMe VAX to get these free vaccinations for kids. Now, if we're going to talk about numbers in this county, let's talk about numbers. There's 400,000 people in this county about, okay? Probably 100 people here aren't happy with this ShowMe VAX, okay? But last year, 2,570 kids got vaccinated, okay? 919 adults got vaccinated. They chose to go down to the health department to get vaccinated. And a lot of them want those vaccinations because of the fact that maybe their kid couldn't get into school without that vaccination. And that this way, let me finish. Let me finish, please. And that reporting, okay, is necessary for them to get into school. So if you want to change that law, then you got a state rep and a state senator here pull on their ears. But what we're trying to do is continue a program that helps a lot of school-age kids and a lot of adults, okay? Additionally, if you really don't like vaccinations, and a lot of folks don't, you can file for the exemption, and according to your specs, there's 644 people in this county filed for exemptions so their kids didn't have vaccinations to go to school. So apparently you can do it. So therefore, you know, then again, why cut something off that's working? And it's worked since 1963. That's the point. I'm not here to argue with you, ma'am.
Yeah, ma'am. Yes.
Back to
Mr. Brazel, one more time here.
So you made a comment that it wasn't required. It is required because they're going to make all these other vaccinations required. So, Joe, when you say that these folks, they wanted to get a vaccination, they didn't want to get it. They had to get it because they're required to have it to go into school.
Well, again,
That's state law, and that's not in our realm. That's
Okay, so if the legislators want to do really stupid things and we're just following along right behind them, no, we don't have to perpetuate this nonsense. Terry, here's what I'd like, look, here's what I think. This thing kind of came up on us quick, okay? And there's a lot of information that's conflicting here, that some of these doctors, these medical people and other people, a lot of these people didn't even know about this. There was a small group on the web and some other folks knew about it last meeting, and then it got out this meeting. More people are attending, but they just found out about it today. So I would like, in order to collect more information, so we have the absolute facts, because it doesn't fund children, it does fund children, it does this, it doesn't do this. If the council members want to do due diligence and let the people, we work for them. It's their decision, it's not ours. If we want to, I would like to make a motion to table it to the next meeting, and then I can have some people send Donna questions, and we'll get these questions answered either by our health director, or that we can reach out to our experts to answer the question as well. And then we'll have our data and our facts in front of us, because some of us aren't certain. We're going to vote on a bill that we're not certain about. It may be this, it may not be this.
Right.
I'm going to make a motion to table this.
I have. Okay, please. I have a motion made by Mr. Brazel to table bill number 4852. Do I have a second? Okay, seeing no second, this bill will be voted on in a short while. One last, please, folks, please. Okay, just to finish up, I just have two questions, okay? Number one, Dimitri, is the words, is COVID-19 mentioned at all in the bill that we are considering?
No.
No, in the bill that we're considering right now tonight, it is not.
Demetrius, is there a
Is-
hurry to get this thing?
Is there, please, Mr. Brazel, you've had plenty of time. Second question, is the word mandatory in this bill in anywhere, in any place?
Not that I recall.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right. One last, please. One last thing, and looking out at the crowd here, not to, make any generalizations, but almost everyone in this room is somewhere probably between the ages of 35 and probably 60, 65, like myself. That means that the vaccinations that you received, and I would imagine that probably 95% of you folks did receive vaccinations back when you were young, okay? Those vaccinations were turned over to the state of Missouri, and the state of Missouri has already had your vaccinations for the last 30 to 40 to 50 years, and they were not given to the state by St. Charles County. They were given to the state of Missouri by your pediatrician, not St. Charles County. St. Charles County is not turned over any one of you people's vaccinations to the state of Missouri. Okay? All right, thank you. Ma'am, will you please control yourself? I feel at times that I'm back in my American history classroom. Okay, all right. Is there a call for the question?
Call for the question.
Okay, all right, will we have a roll call vote?
Bill number 4852.
Thank you, Demetrius, I appreciate it.
An ordinance authorizing the county executive or his designee to execute a memorandum of understanding between St. Charles County and the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services for the state's immunization data repository known as ShowMe VAX. Councilman Brazel.
No.
Councilman Elam.
Yes.
Councilman Hollander.
Yes.
Councilman Hammond.
No.
Councilwoman Schneider. Councilman White. Councilman Cronin.
Yes.
Please. Okay, bill number 4852 passes. We move on to bills for final passage, bill number 4853.
Bill number 4853, an ordinance approving an intergovernmental agreement with the Missouri Secretary of State for the 2020 Have a CARES Act grant awarded to the Election Authority and amending the 2020 budget adopted as Ordinance 19-108 by making supplemental appropriations to the Election Authority Fund in the amount of $150,000 for the 2020 Help America Vote Act Coronavirus Aid, Relief and Economic Security CARES Act grant to assist with funding eligible costs related to preventing, preparing for, and responding to coronavirus for the 2020 federal elections in August and November of 2020.
Any questions or comments on this particular bill? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Bill number 4853, an ordinance approving an intergovernmental agreement with the Missouri Secretary of State for the 2020 Have a CARES Act grant awarded to the Election Authority and amending the 2020 budget adopted as Ordinance 19-108 by making supplemental appropriations to the Election Authority Fund in the amount of $150,000 for the 2020 Help America Vote Act Coronavirus Aid, Relief and Economic Security CARES Act grant to assist with funding eligible costs related to preventing, preparing for, and responding to coronavirus for the 2020 federal elections in August and November of 2020. Councilman Elam.
Yes.
Councilman Hollander.
Yes.
Councilman Hammond.
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider. Councilman White. Councilman Cronin,
Yes.
Councilman Brazel.
All right, bill number 4853 passes. Last bill for final passage is bill number 4854.
Bill number 4854, an ordinance authorizing St. Charles County, Missouri to enter into an intergovernmental cooperation agreement for the investment of public funds through the Missouri Securities Investment Program, MOSIP.
Questions or comments on this particular bill? Okay, seeing none, please call the roll.
Bill number 4854, an ordinance authorizing St. Charles County, Missouri to enter into an intergovernmental cooperation agreement for the investment of public funds through the Missouri Securities Investment Program, MOSIP. Councilman Hollander.
Yes.
Councilman Hammond.
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider.
Yes.
Councilman White. Councilman Cronin.
Yes.
Councilman Brazel. Councilman Elam.
Yes.
Okay, bill number 4854 passes. Now we move on to bills for introduction, beginning with bill number 4855.
Bill number 4855, requested by Michael Hurlbert, sponsored by Terry Hollander. An ordinance, one, authorizing the amendment of the St. Louis Home Consortium Consolidated Plan 2016 through 2020, and amending the 2019 Annual Action Plan for St. Charles County, Missouri in its capacity as an urban county under the Community Development Block Grant Program of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. 2, authorizing the county executive to execute all related documents, certifications, and contracts. And 3, amending the 2020 budget adopted by Ordinance 19-108 to accept and spend CDBG CV funds in the amount of $646,001.
Questions or comments on this particular bill? Okay, seeing none, we move on to bill number 4856.
Bill number 4856, requested by Michael Hurlbert, sponsored by Mike Elam. An ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from R1AFF Single Family Residential District with Floodway Fringe Overlay District to R2FF Two Family Residential District with Floodway Fringe Overlay District per application RZ 20-05.
Okay, questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Elam.
So in reading the information from the planning and zoning meeting and talked to Mr. Hollander, who was at the meeting as well, this was voted down by planning and zoning, and I think there may be a resident or two in the neighborhood who has an opinion on this and feels rather strongly. Can I be safe on that one? Kind of thought so. It's a night for strong opinions, I've learned. So there you go. This is something that, to the one lady's opinion where she said, we could put 3 homes in there in 1-acre lots and this would be fine. I mean, you're 3.5 acres in this, and to put 18 duplexes is kind of crazy. Now, we are going to widen that road at some point, because when we're putting the interchange in, you're going to have to widen that road, because even if you don't put this in, to the lady's point about traffic, we have one of the largest parishes, if not the largest parish in the St. Louis metro area that's right there. You're going to get a lot of traffic, and putting in the new intersection is going to add to that. So that whole area is going to get widened. You're going to get a turn lane. You're going to get sidewalks. That's going to make all that better. I think if they decided, I think you could even put 6 homes in there and make them half-acre lots if they're not full-acre lots. I know that wouldn't be your preference. 3 acres with 3 homes, that'd be fine. But I think you could even do half-acre lots, and it would fit with the area, because there's a lot of homes in that area that are in half-acre to acre lots. And I think if you did 6, that would be good. But 18 duplexes is just too much, and I agree with planning and zoning on this one, and I think we should uphold them voting it down.
Mr. Hammond.
Is the developer here tonight, or somebody representing the developer in this project?
Yes.
These proposed homes, what type of price range are you talking about?
My name's Doug Tiemann. I'm an engineer with Pickett, Ray & Silver, and I'm here for the owner to talk about the project. A couple things that are said that are incorrect that I'd like to state that are totally wrong. First of all, we are asking for zoning from R1A to R2 residential. We are not asking for commercial zoning. Commercial zoning is what is in the county's plan, 2030 plan for this tract of land. If this land goes commercial, it could allow up to 36 or 40 units on this. We are not requesting commercial zoning for this property. We have looked at the property. We are going to be cutting land off of it. People are talking about us building walls and everything else. We're not building any walls. We're going to be cutting 5 feet off of the middle of the site. We're going to be lowering the site and addressing that. Traffic study, as you said, the county is improving the road for a reason. When this road connects to Page, traffic is going to increase dramatically. Right now, they have sight distance that exceeds what is required, and in the future will be over 400 feet, which is what is required. We are talking about 16 units. The revised plan is 16 units on this property. We are not going to be building in a floodplain. People talked about us building in a floodplain. We are not building in the floodplain. We are leaving trees on the north and the northeast and the northwest corner of the site. And we have talked to the applicants. The applicants have talked to the surrounding landowners about providing a fence, and that's what they have requested, and concerns about trees and flows.
Please let him continue, please.
All of the plans will meet St. Charles County standards. We will not release water more than the pre-developed requirement right now. The post-development released water will not exceed what is being released from the site at this time. This development also is dedicating a strip of 15-foot wide right-of-way, which will go for the widening of Gudermouth. The units, you had asked about the units are going to be sold as $275,000. They are all 2-bedroom units. There's nothing that is targeted for families. These are targeted for older adults, and they are not meant for families. This developer has built 20 developments in this county, over 100 homes similar to this. These are targeted for retired older adults. There will not be kids. They won't be restricted, but there will not be kids that are going to be coming into this. It is a very targeted type community. And last, I would say that we have also talked to the city of Cotterville. We presented the plan to them out of a courtesy because we are close. We are touching them on a very small portion. But we have talked to them. The city of Cotterville came back and said they do not believe this ground is commercial ground, and therefore they had no comment about us proposing to do a residential development. It is all single-family residential.
Is there any questions here? Okay. Okay, seeing none, Yes.
Oh, yeah. So just so you folks know, so on everything, there's 2 meetings. So this is an introductory meeting. We'll vote on this. It'll actually be 3 weeks this time, not in 2 weeks. The meeting will be in 3 weeks because we'll be back. And I'm sorry, we don't do public comments back and forth, but I can talk to you after this meeting if you have any questions. I'm your councilman in District 3, so if you have anything you want to say about this, you can holler at me, and that may be literal, as a matter of fact. So there you go.
Yes, yes, one other thing about this is because there's a remonstrance, because the planning and zoning turned this down, rather than needing the 4 votes of the council, it will need 5 for it to be overturned. So that's just a point of order. Okay. All right. Yes, Mr. Hammond.
Got some comments.
Sure.
Who was there from the council?
I was at the planning and zoning.
What seemed What seemed to be the biggest opposition to this?
I think the biggest opposition to it was that the developer came forward with a plat in which there was going to be 18 homes, which was not 9 duplexes on a 3.47 acres of land. And I think that was, I mean, from what I could understand, that was the big sticking point.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, it's Joanne.
That's all right.
This only requires 4 votes for passage because it's a rezoning. So it's a legislative decision.
Okay, I was incorrect. Yeah, no.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think there was a remonstrance filed.
I didn't get a copy of
Okay,
a
but-
remonstrance,
Yeah,
so I'm sorry.
we'll make it clear.
That's why, yes.
All right, Mr. Hammond, continue.
I just don't understand why people would be opposed to $275,000 villas, which that's what these are. They're not two-family dwellings. I mean,
Please.
you know,
Please, come on. I think we've developed a lot of bad habits tonight. Go ahead, Mr.
so I don't understand why planning zoning turned it down, but I'm supportive of it.
All right, any other comments on this particular bill?
Looks like from the satellite that the residential houses around there are large lot subdivisions, aren't they?
1 acre.
I mean,
1 acre lots.
yeah, mostly 1 acre. So it's the same argument I have where I try to stick to the 5 acre minimum. You don't want to cram a bunch of houses in a, it just doesn't make sense, you know? I mean, I don't know. And then there's traffic problems and everything else, especially with that church. And so, no, I'm not in favor of this thing, so.
Well, you know, you kind of cut a lot of seniors out of the market that would like to live in Cottleville, that can't necessarily drive all the time and can walk to different things, including the church. So, I mean, you still have to have smaller housing in areas where people can't afford to just, you know, to buy a 2 acre lot.
Maybe the developer could make not as cram as many in there. Maybe you could make some nice villas and not put as many, don't dump a bunch in there. I mean, that might be a solution. It always makes sense to come back. I don't know, I mean, this is my district, so, I mean, but you guys talk to Bax, or not Bax, talk to, Pickett Rain Silver, whoever, yeah. And just.
Mr. Elam, yeah.
Dave, I would tell you on the south side, there is a new senior independent living facility that's going in on the other side of the highway. So for seniors who want to live in that area, there is going to be another area. Kevin Cast is developing that, who used to be the president at SSM Hospital. He's putting that in. And with all due respect, man, for seniors, for Village, for $275,000, you could live in some pretty nice areas that have a lot more amenities that they're going to be able to put in. But to put a standalone thing in here, I think it's too many in 3 acres. I think it's just too many. But that's just my opinion, so.
All right. Is there any more questions for this gentleman? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no other comments on Bill number 4856, we will move on to Bill number 4857, please.
Bill number 4857, requested by Michael Hurlbert, sponsored by Joe Brazel. An ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from AA Agricultural District to RR Single Family Residential District per application RZ 20-06.
Any questions or comments on 4857? Okay, seeing none, we move to Bill number 4858.
Bill number 4858, requested by Steve Ellman, sponsored by Terry Hollander. An ordinance waiving liquor license fees for certain concessions operations of the Parks and Recreation Department of the City of St. Charles for the period July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021.
Questions or comments on this particular bill? Okay, seeing none, we move to Bill number 4859 for introduction.
Bill number 4859, an ordinance extending by 2 months the end date of liquor license year 2019 through 2020 from July 31st, 2020 to September 30th, 2020, and extending by 2 months the annual liquor license application and fee deadline for license year 2020 through 2021 from August 1st, 2020 to October 1st, 2020, to accommodate 2-month extensions to Missouri State liquor licensing timeframes due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Any questions or comments on this? I know I have a couple of people that live in my neighborhood that own restaurants, and they were very appreciative of the fact that with as much takeout business that it was allowed for them to start allowing the sale of alcohol with that. And I think it's a good idea for us to continue, that particular policy.
I don't know why the state has that law anyway. It doesn't make any damn sense.
All right. All right. Are there any tabled bills? I see none to be removed from the table. How about announcements and miscellaneous? Mr. Cronin.
I'd like to take a second and thank every police officer in this county for their professionalism, not only this past week, but year after year. I think that needs to be said more, and it's not getting said enough today, so thank you guys.
Yes, Mr. Elam.
Tony to speak.
Yes, Tony, yeah, we kind of put you on the back burner here. You're certainly welcome.
While the state representative's coming, I want to pass along to Chief. I echo Mr. Cronin's sentiments. Thank you for all you guys have done to this point. It's been a challenge for law enforcement, so we appreciate you guys very much, and all of you, and I appreciate that we got that nice part about, I really hate this, we're all in this together, because it just makes me think about High School Musical. And if you have kids my age, you heard that song way too many times when that movie came out. But I appreciate all of our law enforcement and how you guys have worked together very seamlessly throughout all the jurisdictions, and even sheriffs, corrections, and all our municipalities. So thanks, Chief, for all you guys do.
I echo that.
Sorry, Tony, for...
Yes, Representative, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As stated, I am Tony Lovasco, State Representative from District 64. I originally came to ask you to vote against a measure that I later discovered was on the consent agenda. So I am now going to ask you to make a motion to reconsider the consent agenda. Specifically in regards to the change to the council rules, Rule 18, I believe C, specifying that public comments can only be restrained to items that are specifically on the agenda. I have an inkling as to why that you might have proposed this rule change, and I can't say if I'm guessing correctly, I can't say I disagree. There's been some incidents recently where some members of this council, as well as the county executive, got some personal attacks levied against them in this very chamber. I don't agree with those attacks, and I found that inappropriate. However, this is not the time to be telling people specifically what concerns they can or cannot address the council. And I've had a long week. You may have heard I've been in the news a little bit. I made some people pretty angry. I had people harass me on the internet as a result of that. I had people contact my employer, tell them that they think that I should be fired. I had death threats on my personal cell phone. All that was pretty inappropriate. But it was what I signed up for. It's what we all signed up for. At the end of the day, we don't get to tell people how to feel or what things that they should or shouldn't comment on. We can limit how long they can speak. We can say they can't curse during the meeting. There's rules of decorum. You can certainly pass a rule that says that they have to keep their comments to an objective nature and not attack people personally. I would be fine with that. But when you tell people that they can only speak to matters that are specifically outlined in the agenda, you're telling them that the government themselves has to say, well, we're willing to talk about this before you can bring it forward. I'm not a fan of that. Mr. Elam.
Just so you know, you don't have to speak just on an agenda item. You mark on whether or not you're going to speak on an agenda item or an off-agenda item. You just mark your cards that way, and you declare it that way. So then Claire formalizes who's speaking on what issues.
Absolutely.
So if you're speaking on something that's off an issue, that's not on the agenda, you can still come speak on it. So if you have something you want to come speak about, you can still come speak on that. We just ask that you stick to that topic.
I have no objection whatsoever with keeping people on the topic that they stated they would be speaking on. That you do have to organize the meeting and budget your time. I have no issue with that. However, the rule change in question that was voted on in this consent agenda reads, and I quote, "Speakers shall address only topics that are included on that meeting's agenda." Period. It then goes on to say if a speaker's comments do not address or cease to address an agenda topic, any council member may raise a point of order to the council chair. If such a point of order is well taken, the balance of the speaker's time shall be forfeited. There is not a provision in there for, I've got this issue that's concerning me and I'd like to tell you about it. In this case, that person would have to approach one of you and get you to actually introduce something on the agenda specifically so that item could be brought up for discussion. That's not a good precedent. Earlier this week, we had people marching not a couple blocks away because people are angry. Whether it's about the COVID issue or police misconduct, like there's a lot of heated emotions lately. I don't have to tell you guys that. You saw some of it tonight. The idea that we're going to limit what forums those people can address the council to private conversations, either by phone or by email, I think that is a very bad precedent and ultimately is not going to serve the public good or ultimately the goodwill of this council. I don't think that was your intent. I do think that this was brought up to address a particular issue, but I do think it goes overboard. So I would ask that you make a motion to reconsider and remove that item from the consent agenda. Thank you.
I'd like to ask Mr. Watson to explain what we discussed today that's in the particular rules that actually addresses what the representative just spoke on.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Under existing rules, under the council's existing rules, it is within the power of the council to allow any member to speak on any topic if the council chooses to hear on that topic. And that's under existing rules. So in the scenario that's being discussed, if somebody wanted to address the council on a matter that was not on the agenda, that matter would be presented through the speaker card, which is typically how we do it. And if the council so chose to hear from that member, they could choose to hear on that topic.
Okay, I believe that was actually done quite a few times this evening. We allowed speakers to speak because we wanted to hear from them. So I think that there is a provision in there where if someone wants to speak on an issue that's not on the agenda, they certainly will be able to speak on it.
So, John, or Chairman?
Yes.
Mr. Watson, just to clarify, if somebody wants to come up and talk about potholes or Mrs. Larrigan's cow getting out, they can talk about that. I mean, they can talk about county business. Or maybe we should be more specific because about personal attacks. I mean, I just want to make sure that we don't stifle people's conversation if it's, something to do with the county. But we all know it's about certain speakers who personally attack people's children and other things that have nothing to do with county business. And so maybe it should be, if we can sleep on this a little bit and maybe Tony can throw some ideas out and maybe we'll talk about amending the council rules or tweaking a little bit because we don't want to stifle conversation. I don't think that was our intent. I know it wasn't our intent.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr.
Mr. Chairman, I guess I got a problem when people can come up and tell lies, and I know they're lies, and I can't do anything about it. I don't like that, and that's the reason. That's probably one of the reasons that we're even talking about this. Because people come up and insult people and tell lies, and if they have proof, why don't they submit it to this council if they think something's unfair or something's happened in this county instead of getting up here and telling lies? I just won't stand for it.
All right, please, please. Please, Mr. Watson, and then we'll get to you, Joe. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just a comment. It was consistent with our conversations today. It is very unusual for a legislative body. It doesn't happen in Jefferson City. It doesn't happen in Washington, D.C., where a member of the public can address the entire legislative body on an issue. And what you all provide for public comment and have for many years is well beyond what the typical legislative body provides in any other forum I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Brazel?
Yeah, I would just like to, I told the council I was going to do this. I'd like to make, if it requires a motion, You guys do what you like. I'm going to make a motion if that's what it requires. But on council rules, this is not an ordinance, this is nothing, but it's just between the council. I'd like to have our meetings move back to our house. I don't like it being in somebody else's house. I feel more comfortable in St. Charles County in the old Capitol building. So the charade is over. The governor's orders lifted in the 15th. Why are we continuing with meetings here? So my motion would be, and I don't know if I need a second or you just do an actual hand vote, but I vote that we move back to St. Charles, go back to our house, and in this charade on this COVID thing. And so do I have any support on that? Because we talked a little bit about it.
Let me explain, let me explain what my position as chairman has been. We agreed with the city of St. Peters that we would conduct meetings in the months of May and June here in this particular facility. We told them at the time that we would then notify them when we felt it was time for us to return to our, quote, home. My plan right now, and after discussing with quite a few members of the council, is that we will conduct the next meeting here, but then the first meeting in July will be held back at the county courthouse. So that's what I have proposed and what I think would be a fair way of doing it. Now, if anyone opposes besides Mr. Brazel, I'd be glad to hear from you. Yes, Nancy.
I agree with Mr. Brazel that we should move back to our previous and our regular home. I know you made an agreement with the city of St. Peters, but I don't know what the detriment would be to them if we vacated early. They might be glad to have this quarrelsome bunch out of their city anyway. But I do believe it's probably the chairman's call, so.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion is to adjourn. A second.